Hi, Mr. Kershaw at Springville High School. I wanted to make a quick video on something that I discuss a lot with students, particularly 11th and 12th grade students, and that is how to do a college search and sort of the timeline of the college admission process. So college, big word. I consider that any kind of post-high school instruction. Everything from a short-term 6-month skilled trade type instruction to a 2-year associate's degree to a 4-year traditional college to a timeline that it would extend into graduate school and beyond. So college meaning any of that. Usually, the junior year is when I've talked about this in some previous videos. We start to put some pieces in place for the college search process, like should you take SATs or not. I'm not going to talk much about this here because I've talked about that in other ones. But usually, starting to look at what I major in, what kind of colleges are within the parameters of what I might be interested in. How do you narrow those things down? What are good places to get information on that, and how do you go about doing it? In a sort of way that is organized, in a way that sort of yields a good narrowing of options as you progress. So I think that the junior year is when I start to see students do what I'm going to demonstrate for you, which is online college searches. We talk about those a lot at the junior scheduling meeting, because when you're a junior and you're scheduling for your last year in high school, often the courses you're picking are not just to satisfy your minimum graduation requirements, but also to make your transcript look as attractive as possible to the colleges you might be applying for, whatever and for whatever major you're thinking of applying for. So that's a time when we see folks doing a lot of searching. We will meet with students again in the senior year, in the fall of the senior year, to talk about specifics of how you go about applying, what methods you can use to do that, and a little bit about how you apply for financial aid. And I think some of that is beyond the scope of this here today, but I do want to talk to you about how you start a search. So I've been doing this for 23, 24 plus years. I've worn the counselor's hat many, many times, but I've also worn the parent's hat on the side of this. And I just recently went through this the last year with my daughter. So some of these things are very close to home in terms of my feelings and preferences about a college search. So let me start with the kind of things that shouldn't play a large factor in your college search, but sometimes do with students. Start with mail. Once a student reaches the junior year, particularly if they take the SAT or the ACT, it's not uncommon to be getting, I should probably cover up the name of this college, but very colorful, multi-paged, very detailed mailings from colleges. Some colleges tend to have quite a budget for those kinds of things. I always caution students to kind of not put too much stock in those things, because it is certainly not a level playing field in terms of the advertising budget of every college out there. And not that these things can't be informative and put something on your radar, but this shouldn't drive your college search. When I ask a student, how they came upon their list of colleges and they talk about mailings they received, I get a little suspect of that. The other thing I would sort of take with a grain of salt are firsthand accounts. And firsthand accounts are something that I hear an awful lot with students about. I have a friend who went there. They love it. I have a sibling or a cousin that went there and they love it. I've been to visit once and I had a great time. Like firsthand accounts by, single data point arguments and that kind of thing, I think can sometimes lead to some disappointment, because you see a very narrow slice of a college when you see it through, one pair of eyes. And even when you go for sort of a social visit or to go see a football game or something like that, you see a very, very narrow side of that college. Not that that can't inform a decision, but it certainly shouldn't be a prime mover in terms of making one. So I think that those are, are things that can be, not the greatest determiner of where you should be applying. I even think, a single experience with a representative from a college. I've had students say, I went to a college fair and I met a rep there and they seemed really cool and I'm really excited. They were very excited about their school and their program. Those things can be helpful, but I think from my point of view, it's better to start casting, a sort of very wide view of what things are important to you in a college, and then, sort of systemically narrowing it down from there. And that's what I want to kind of talk to you about today. So undoubtedly, usually the largest driver in terms of where should I be applying to college is major. Is what do you want to major in? Some things that are college majors are very well defined, something like accounting or engineering or elementary education. You can pretty easily, and I'll show you in a little bit, how you locate and find colleges that have those particular majors. Other things can be a little trickier. Things like pre-professional programs, colleges that have a pre-med program or a pre-dental, pre-physical therapy program, colleges that have a pre-law program, okay? So those are programs that are designed to link a student on to study at the graduate level for medicine or law or physical therapy or dental or whatever those are. And that's a little bit of a different level of search because you're really looking 2 steps ahead when looking for a college. So we'll look at how you find that as well. And then also non-academic talent-based majors. So things like someone who wants to major in musical performance, or if they want to major in photography or film, fine arts, anything like that. Those majors often have extra steps that sort of are, involved with them. And we'll look at how you go about, figuring that stuff out and getting on the right track for that stuff. So major is a huge first stop in terms of trying to figure out where. Other things that are important: distance from home. Sometimes students will say, I only want to look at public colleges in New York State. There are ways that you can narrow things down based on that. Or they say, I don't want to go any more than a day's drive from home. There are ways to narrow down based on that. Another one is entrance level difficulty. This is one that students often overlook. Not all colleges are a level playing field in terms of difficulty to get in. It's something that a student should be kind of aware of when you're applying, is what kind of students a college is accepting or has accepted recently. And we'll look at an admissions profile to show you what kind of stuff you would be looking for that kind of stuff. And then cost is certainly one. Public and private colleges can have very different sticker prices, although at the end of the game, sometimes those things can narrow. But cost is certainly, a determiner in figuring out where folks apply. What kind of scholarship programs they have on campus to help defer those costs, and other extra programs, extracurricular programs, in some cases, college athletic programs that may be a piece for some elite athletes of their financial aid process if they're looking at Division I or Division II schools. So those are things that I think are better drivers for looking at a school. And I'm going to show you some ways that you can take those parameters and put them into a search engine and help narrow your thinking. Undoubtedly, before I get into the search engine piece of this, let me say this. We all know that Google isn't perfect, or Bing, or whatever search engine you prefer to use, okay? Neither are any college search engine you find, okay? I have, in my career, many times unearthed results through these things that, they indicate a college doesn't have a particular major, and then we do some further digging and find out that they do, or vice versa. So I would say that the best source of info for a college, short of talking to one of their admissions officers or a member of a department, would be to look at their website, okay? Fortunately, there's 3,000 colleges in the U.S. If you're trying to cast a very wide net, that would be a pretty long process. So I think that with these search engines I'm going to show you, the idea here is to sort of cast this wider net based on the parameters you have about what you're looking for in a college. And then once you get this down to a narrow result, you go right to the website and you start looking at the specifics for that department or that major or things, and sort of get information like that. And then you certainly, can call those offices, their admissions offices, to get a more personal assessment of where, some of those guardrails are. So I think there are two major search, online search portals that I point students towards. One of them is for New York State public colleges only, and that would be the SUNY site. And the other one is, although it's not the only method of doing this, I find that it's pretty accessible from a lot of different places, and it's as good as most others I've seen, and that's the College Board's college search tool. So let me show you those two things. I'm going to share my screen here. We'll first start with the College Board one, because this is, let's see, there we go. This is something that will help you identify both public or private colleges anywhere here in the U.S. And to find this, the College Board is the folks that put out the SAT and the AP. You go to their main page, which is collegeboard.org, and you should see there's always a link off the main page to College Search, and that'll take you to a page that looks something like this. Okay. And here are some of the things that we talked about. And you can start to sort of narrow down based on, going down one of these avenues. So if we wanted to go down the location avenue, if we wanted to look at just colleges in New York State, we could check New York. We could also say, what if we wanted to look at colleges in New York State and Nevada? We could put them both in. Continue. And now we've gone from about 3,000 different colleges to 212 colleges are in one of those two locations. Okay. Now there's other things that are active up here, like major, type of college, affordability, campus life, that kind of stuff. I said major was probably the most important thing. So let's choose a very common major, something like, let's choose like engineering. Within engineering, there's a lot of different, breakdowns for that. We'll pick a very popular one, mechanical engineering, and we'll add that. Show colleges. So now I am looking at colleges that are within two locations that list a major of mechanical engineering. Okay. So mechanical engineering, you can go down by college and click on one of these and see a little bit about each one. The nice thing about this site is all of the different, layouts for the individual colleges are listed the same way. You can even there's a college comparison tool, so you can kind of put them side by side. I think this stuff is all good and nice. But with 28 colleges, 24 colleges, not 28, 24 colleges, that might actually be enough for you to start digging into websites. Sometimes things, folks will want to break things down a little bit smaller. So like if you said, what type of colleges? Well, I want to look at colleges that just have 4-year programs. I want to just look at public colleges. Let's not do that. But you could certainly do that if you wanted to, and just look at colleges that have a public affiliation. Yeah, that didn't do too much for us. Well, let's put some other things in here. Let's see. Religious affiliation. There's other, colleges that have an honors program. 17 colleges. So you get the idea. You can narrow things down, pretty quickly. Admissions is something that is a point that I mentioned that's often a consideration that people overlook. it's something that you can do on this site a little bit based on the acceptance rate, which is kind of what I would encourage you to do instead of the SAT or the GPA range, because I think that gets a little bit confusing, especially with all the test optional schools there are out there. But something you could do that would be even better than that would be, once you get down to an acceptable number of colleges, you could go to a college's website. This is SUNY Purchase. And if you go into their admissions page, you might find something under first year that shows you a little bit about their incoming class. Now, it says fall of 2021. This is just what they happen to have listed on their website. 2023 right now, and that would have been the most current incoming class prior to the fall of this year, fall of 2022. So that's maybe why that's as much of this updated. I'm sure that by the fall of 2023, that would be updated to fall 2022. But they talk about class size, average SAT reading and math scores, average high school GPA. One thing to note about high school grade point average, that very often many colleges will calculate that themselves. So we will report a GPA for you when you apply to college, but that is our calculation, and we describe that in the curriculum guide. Colleges, some of them will use that just as it is. Some colleges will look at your transcript and strip away any class that's not an academic and then recalculate that GPA. So they're not really saying that. That might be a question for their admissions department when you talk to them. Average ACT, which is a different, college testing score, and then a little bit about, the profile of the average sort of person who's applied there. So this can be, very useful in determining how competitive a college is that you're applying for. To stop sharing for a second, why is that important? Well, you may have heard the term safe school. You may have heard the term stretch school or dream school, or these kind of things that get thrown around with college admissions. A safe school is often what folks would describe a college that when you look at their profile, their admissions profile like that, and you look at your own transcript, you think, okay, that's I feel pretty safe that my numbers look like these or better than these. Okay, a stretch school would be one that is you maybe are close, but you're a little bit below those. And then a dream school would be, you might be significantly beneath those. Colleges accept more than their average. So they do accept some students, below these numbers. How much they'll stretch really depends on the admissions year. Okay. Very often when there's a big stretch beneath there, it has to do with something to do with a non-academic talent. Like if you were applying to a college for a non-academic major, like a fine arts major or something like that, and a lot of your admissions was determined based on the portfolio you accepted, that might be something that allows them to stretch on their admission profile quite a bit. In a college like a Division I or a Division II school that has athletics, if you're being recruited for one of those schools and you have some significant athletic talent, that might allow them to stretch a little bit from that profile. But those are definitely things you want to be looking at. Sometimes I have students who are, have gone through the process of applying and paying for the application fees for a college, and have never looked at that. And then you kind of put some of that information in front of them and say, like, wow, this is quite a stretch. And then sometimes they're regretful that they've gone through that process and paid that money when not having looked at what kind of students that college is accepting. So from this same kind of thing, to go back to my screen share here for a second. You can use this to narrow down colleges that exist anywhere in the U.S., public or private, by a lot of these parameters. We live in New York State, and it's not uncommon that students come to us and say, well, what exists in just the state system? So within the state system, the public system, the SUNY system, there is a search engine as well. And the way you'd find that is to go to suny.edu, programs, undergraduate programs. So we're searching here for undergraduate is the first 4 years of college after high school. Graduate would be things that are beyond that. And then it allows you to use this Find Your Major tool in two ways. One of them is, students will often ask me, well, Mr. Crichon, what majors occur on the SUNY Fredonia campus? Well, we open up the campus, we pull down to SUNY Fredonia, we hit search, and this will show me every major that SUNY Fredonia offers. Other way to use this tool, again, go under undergraduate programs, is to search for a specific major. So if we said accounting, and we're looking for bachelor's programs in accounting, we hit search. So it's going to ask you what specific type of accounting degree, and that isn't uncommon that, there are different names for degrees. So we'll just click accounting. And this opens up then every New York State Public, every SUNY that has a bachelor's degree in accounting. Again, once I kind of got to this point and I've identified a workable number of schools, I would say less than, less than 20, that it might be time then to start actually going to their websites, digging down and looking at the admission policies for a particular program. I did mention, that pre-professional was something that I wanted to cue back onto, because that is something when a student tells me they want to go on to law school or they want to go on to become a doctor or become a physical therapist or something like that. That is something that is really 2 steps ahead of where you are in high school. And what you'd want to be looking for then are pre-professional programs at your colleges to get into your college list. Now, a program at a college, a pre-professional program is not a major, and this is always a point of confusion to students, is a pre-professional program is kind of a track within a college that you might be able to still major in a couple different things with, that sort of sets you up to apply to medical school, law school, physical therapy school, architecture, this kind of thing, once you are at your junior or senior year of college. Very often they give advisement on testing for those kinds of things. So for med school, they would give advisement on taking the MCATs, or law school taking the LSATs, or these kinds of things. So looking for pre-professional programs are something that it's a little easier to do, a search on that, identify colleges, and then go to that college's website and look at what they specifically say about what to major in at that college to get in that pre-professional path. Okay. Going back to the Purchase website, the other thing that I mentioned earlier that I wanted to cue in on was very often for talent-based majors, non-academic talent-based majors, and this would be something like a fine arts major or a music major, a film major, a photography major, something like that. There are other processes that you need to go through besides just applying to the college. Okay, so this is from Purchase's website. They talk about a portfolio for some of these different majors, auditions, and the deadlines can be very different than the traditional just overall college application. So, what I usually say to students is like, applying to a college is like jumping over a high jump bar. Okay. But which major you end up in is like where you'd land on the map. So it's not enough to just know that we can jump over the bar. We have to know, where are we supposed to land here? So what do we need to do to get ourselves in the right location for landing? So drilling down into the college website for the particular major you want would reveal any extra admission policies that they might have. My daughter went and applied to this specific program and, had to submit a portfolio and had to go in for, after that had to go in for an interview and these kinds of things. So that's not going to be exactly the same for every major. And very often for non-talent based majors, that isn't part of the process. If you're going to major in accounting or something, you may just need to submit your college application. But you're not going to know these things unless you actually drill down into the website. It's not uncommon for students, if they haven't done that, to miss deadlines for important things like portfolio reviews or interviews or whatnot. So I hope this has been helpful for you. I realize I'm rambling a little bit here, but this is a topic that we discuss quite a bit, particularly using one of these two tools to help, just sort of start from that wide search and narrow things down to a point where you can really, research a major. Just to open up another tab here and to show you how you would research a major. I'll go back to sharing for a quick second. I know I said I was done, but then I thought of something else. The way my mind works. This is SUNY Brockport's site, and this is how you would look at a particular major. I would look for the word academics, like we're seeing right here. Okay. So here is their accounting major. It's nice once you get to a college level, website for something like this, you may be able to see actually the courses that you would take semester by semester. Unfortunately, I'd love if there was some sort of standard for college websites. There is not. So you may spend some time looking around here. But that is, it's time well spent, because you may, in doing these kinds of things and figuring out the difference between the finance major and the international business major, learn something about what you're really looking for, and you might develop some more refined questions for an experience like a college visit. A note about college visits, I don't think that junior year is anywhere near too early to do those kinds of things. Very often for colleges that exist at a great distance from home, those are things that students sometimes are forced to do over the summertime just because of logistics and the time it might take to get to a school out of state or things like that. But I would certainly have done some research and some homework on a specific major of a website for a college before a visit, so that you could, to ask questions about stuff that they haven't already answered for you there. I can say that, from personal experience in doing that kind of thing with my daughter, I was able to try to coordinate at a couple of colleges a way to have that college visit become a little more customized to what we wanted to see there. So we had the usual college visit where you see the dorms and you see the, cafeterias, and they take you through the nicest, classrooms and things like that. But then we were able to go and meet with a professor and sit in a class or those kinds of things. Do not expect an admissions office to set that kind of stuff up for you. That is the sort of thing that you have to be sort of digging in these websites, looking for contacts and the deans of departments, making contacts with them, asking if there's I'm going to be on campus on this day. Is there someone that I can meet with? Is there someone that we can interact with? But those things can prove to be very valuable. They can prove to make a college visit a lot more specific to what your student might be looking there for. Certainly, college visits are something that happens sometimes in the junior year. It is not too late for them to happen really all throughout the senior year. Sometimes students revisit a college even after they've been accepted in the spring or in the wintertime to help, see the campus, in a different way, and maybe get some of that personalized, major specific interaction that they didn't get the first time around. Anyway, I could keep going on talking about this forever, but I hope this video has been helpful to you. Please feel free to reach out to me, email or phone call, or stop by the office, try to make an appointment, and we can talk about your specifics. But I hope that this has been helpful in showing you some ways to do some online research for a college.